Hi.
Hello, hello.
Nice to see you, Halina.
Nice to see you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm one of the co-founders, along with Verda, of the Gamers. Really thrilled to have everybody here. It's been such an incredible weekend all around. And I am even more excited to introduce, we're going to do a fireside chat. And so I'm thrilled to introduce Halina Malik. Halina, I feel like Halina is currently the head of marketing at eFuse, and she oversees content, creative, socials, marketing, and esports.gg. But having known Halina for quite a while through this industry, I feel like that title doesn't do justice to everything that is in your background and the impact you have. So I'm just really excited to be here with you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. That was so nice. Yeah, I always think that the blanket term marketing is too general as well. Like it doesn't encompass everything. But thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so I'm Halina Malik. I'm the head of marketing at eFuse. I've been in the industry for about 10 years now. First started my gaming career playing Call of Duty competitively. I played on the Major League Gaming circuit, which was a ton of fun, and then worked pro bono with some Call of Duty teams for their marketing services and really in their partnerships departments too. But post college, I got to work with the Cleveland Cavaliers and start their esports department, and was in Cleveland for about 4 years until I moved to eFuse. And so now I've been here, yeah, for about 2 years at eFuse and loving it, trying to create a world where anyone can change their life through gaming.
Sorry, my AirPods weren't connected, so I was trying to make sure my. Can you hear me okay? Is my sound all right?
I've got you.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, it's thank you for your intro and your background. That was going to be the first thing I wanted to make sure we got out of the way. I think the official sort of title of this, like you said, marketing is kind of a broad category, and growing your social media for your personal brand is also somewhat broad. So I thought what would be relevant to start with is, with your experience ranging from esports pro player to sports at the Cavs, content marketing, I would love to hear about what your career goals were when you first started out versus where they are now, and how you kind of got to where you are.
Yeah, I think, when I was starting out, I really just wanted to explore every single department and just learn what there was to learn. So at the Cavs, it was great because I got a taste of every single department. The esports department in particular was only two employees, two full-time employees. We eventually grew to four employees pre-pandemic, but we all had to wear a ton of hats. And so I think for me, some of my goals were just learning what there was to learn, learning how social media was run through a professional organization like the Cavs and learning how they did their marketing, right? And marketing, to them meant a ton of different things. It could mean community programs, it could mean ticket sales, it could mean, selling suites, it could be brand partnerships and brand acquisition. So I think I just early on wanted to learn what there was to learn so that I could sort of pick a lane and figure out which lanes I liked and didn't like because it was just a brand new world to explore. And then, I figured out that I really liked content. I really liked creating videos. And even though I wasn't a photographer or videographer, I still like to produce it. Like I like to come up with the concept and script it out and sort of help with the logistics and the day to day, right, of making that content happen even without holding a camera in my hand. So I figured that was a good path that I liked, and figuring out what the goals would be, and next steps to eventually grow my career into a director of content, right, and what learning what I had to learn to be able to grow in that one unique path.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story, because to be doing something like creating video, realizing you liked it, and then pivoting, or leaning into that area is, I think that a lesson that all of us can learn, especially in an industry where there are so many sort of micro skill sets that go into what a lot of us do on a day-to-day basis. And on one hand, I find, myself thinking you do need to lean into what you ultimately think might sort of go somewhere. But yeah, you also have to sort of try things and ask questions and figure out what that is when you're in that moment.
Definitely, and it was nice to be able to learn from the experts and see what tools they learn, and see what tools they use, and even for socials in particular, I learned a whole new world, of utilizing CrowdTangle, right, or utilizing like some of these like Sprout Social or some other services that I had never heard of, and really just got hands-on experience and kind of learn through osmosis, right? Just like connecting myself into their meetings and just joining the meetings and being able to sit down in the room and just learn and observe. And even trial by fire too, right? And just trying to use Blinkfire and just trying to figure it out, right? Uh, and it's never be afraid to ask for help either, and get your hands dirty and learn. So yeah, that was a great experience for me to be able to figure out what I don't know. Which was a lot, but in a good way.
Well, you certainly seem to know a lot now. I know that you've been somebody I've learned a lot from in this business as I think about people who have just really been successful both in their sort of professional, to use the word corporate job, and also as an inspirational kind of leader for a lot of the things that we stand for at the Gamers. But I think I'd love to talk and hear from you on, social media growth or just brand growth. What are some of the tactics that you use? And really, you can speak to whatever feels most relevant to answer that question. Like, the title of this is How to Grow Your Personal Brand. It could also just be How to Grow a Brand. And what do you think is most impactful, or where do you sort of start if you're looking to create a brand and grow it? What are some of the specifics that you've learned?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. Because I've had to build my own personal socials as well as brand socials. But I think kind of a motto that I have that reigns true for both is relationships over transactions, and that's sort of my motto, through both phases. So personally, don't look at your following count or your follower count and truly be authentic, right, to who you are, but at the same time, it's a relationship. Like everybody who you follow on social and who follows you back, like that is a relationship. It's not a transaction. So you shouldn't consider it as like, oh, this person doesn't follow me back, so I'm going to unfollow them. That's not really how to think. It's treating people like people, right, and wanting to grow the relationship and not grow your follower count in particular. And that's interactions, right, that are genuine and sharing, genuine thoughts and feelings. It's also, part of it is being positive, right? And not to say that you can't be negative on your socials, but I think there is currently a lot of negativity. And so, if you embrace, good discussions and good people, you'll start to grow your accounts and you'll see that authentic follower growth. But on the brand side as well, you want to stay true to your core values, right? Like what means the most to you and what means the most to your brand and the pillars that you stand on. But through that, relationships again over transactions, there's always somebody on the other side of that account, even if it's a brand account. So just treating people right with kindness and respect and understanding that there's another person behind the other side of the screen and trying to connect with that person. So yeah, I think it's all about relationships and treating people, with respect and kindness. And I think even when you go into the strategy of social media, then you do want to be tactful. I know Twitter just came out with their algorithm only, I think, 2 weeks ago, and we got to learn what performs better on the platform, versus what kind of gets swallowed. And the lessons, that we take away are like links get buried. Like if there's a link that you want to send out, so if you are trying to promote your Twitch stream on Twitter, that will get blocked by the algorithm, right? And kind of shrink. So what they do prefer, right, the Twitter algorithm is they prefer media. So attaching photos or GIFs, right, or video is a great way to grow, you know, impressions and engagements. And so gaming in general does have a stronger engagement rate than most industries, which is great. And that is also like something to leverage and talk about more is the gaming community is already very engaged on socials. So I'd say paying attention to the algorithms and trying to learn the algorithms. And if you don't know, right, there's you know, ways we can research that, right, and figure that out. And just paying attention to the do's and don'ts of that particular platform, which do vary from channel to channel. I know I touched a lot there.
But you did, but it was really, I think it's really helpful. And it makes me think about a lot of the people who are here today are either college students or university students or, you know, thinking about pivoting careers or maybe getting into this industry in the first place. So I was curious about, you know, like we kind of touched on right at the beginning, you obviously you're head of marketing at eFuse, so there's the social, and there's the brand of eFuse that, you know, you're responsible for putting out into the world, and then you yourself have a pretty robust and strong Twitter following, and you know, you have a personal brand. And so if somebody was I mean, first of all, two-part question. One is if other than if you're a content creator where I think maybe you have a personal brand that is your, you know, kind of company brand, is it important to have both? Is question one. And then as a follow-up to that, if you are at the beginning of trying to create a personal brand, like where would you start? Is it just, you know, you mentioned the algorithms of the different places and the different tactics on different platforms and all of that's a lot, but you know, I think you can kind of research those, or you know, people here could research those, but how do you even get started? Like which platform should you be on? How do you, like, is it more of a values based thing? You mentioned that a little bit, but where would you begin?
Yeah, no, great question. For gaming in particular, and I'm only talking with like the gaming and esports industry, Twitter is a must. Twitter is where all the action happens, where a lot of the news happens, where people interact. Twitter is very large in the gaming space, and so that's where I started as well. And as a player, you know, as a gamer, we all have gamer tags, and so on my social handles, I grabbed that handle and tried to make it consistent across all platforms. So my gamer tag used to be Blonde Venom, right? So I had Blonde Venom on all of my social channels, right? Twitch, Twitter, and tried to make it the same on every single platform so that, you know, I could say, this is my persona, right? This is my gamer tag, and this is what I'm rocking with. Now in my professional career, I have like since changed that to just Halina. So I have Halina on Twitter, and right, and my email, right, is Halina at eFuse. And so trying to keep even that consistent as well. But you know, if you are starting out in the gaming industry, Twitter is massive, and so securing a handle there, but that's consistent across platforms. And I don't tweet as much as I used to, but when I was really digging into my personal socials and how I got a lot of original growth was to post consistently. You know, I post multiple times a day. You know, and interact with, you know, other competitors, right, and be ingrained in that space. And you know, in my professional career, maybe tweeting less less often than I used to, but it's still important to post often, to follow accounts, even if you think it makes your ratio look a little off. I would say one of my biggest tips on social is don't worry about your ratio, like at all. It's more about you know, your engagement than it is about the actual number of followers. So I'd say, you know, if you have your name or persona, right, like pick that across all socials and keep it consistent, and then yeah, post often. And the algorithm on Twitter especially loves active posts and posting often.
Thank you so much for that. I know one of our goals for this whole weekend is tangible takeaways, and those were really clear and just super helpful, I think. And I like that you gave the actual sort of number, like a few times a day, because sometimes I know when people are starting out thinking like, well, post often, it's like, well, what is often? So that's really helpful. And so we got started a few minutes late, I know, but this is a mini workshop. So what I want to make sure to do is give anybody an opportunity to ask questions. We'll keep talking, but if anybody has questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Or also, you are more than welcome to come on right up the stage and you can ask. So just come, I guess, right sort of in between us. If you have a question you would like to ask Halina. And so while we're seeing if any questions come up, Halina, I have another question for you, which is, where do you've grown your personal brand either, and this could be personal or more professional with eFuse. How do you think about that right now? Like, do you, like I said before, you've been an inspiration and somebody I look up to a lot in our industry personally. Do you think about growing your brand right now? And if so, in what ways? And maybe it's more what your brand stands for or what you're all about, but I'd love to know kind of where are you going from here?
Oh, you're far too kind. So thank you. Too sweet. But for me, and I'll even give like just in-depth knowledge of eFuse as a whole. The company's been around for about 2 years, but it's been extremely confusing of what eFuse does, and simplifying that. And so, my job here in the next month or 2 months is to really put eFuse almost on the back burner and treat it as a tech company and a holding company, and the products that we have underneath our umbrella, bringing those into the forefront. So at eFuse, you'll see that shift of eFuse going, into the back burner as a holding company, as a tech company, and the products that speak to the gamers will come to the social channels. So eFuse will change to eArena, where eArena is like the place where gamers can meet, compete, and get discovered. It's where you join tournaments. It's where you look to compete and join a league or a tournament or watch a tournament. And so eArena will be how we interact with gamers. And so that's kind of my focus, and where I'm heading now is really simplifying eFuse and making it digestible for people to not have to be confused, right? We do so many things. We own a bunch of collegiate leagues. We have some tech products. We host tournaments. We do a lot. And now it's time to simplify that messaging. And we're doing that through social media. So that's kind of the next wave for me, is figuring out those puzzle pieces of what products speak to who and how we represent those on Twitter and otherwise.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because I know from working with eFuse, all of the things that you all do as a company are so impactful and have really kind of moved the needle in a lot of different ways in the collegiate space and for women. And also, you're right, it's a great idea to make it just even very accessible to understand for the actual gamers. So can't wait to see that happening. And I see one specific question in the chat, which is, with Twitter, is there a timeline to follow on post, like certain times of day versus how often to post, or how much is too much?
This is a really good question, and especially for gamers. You have to also take into account the West Coast. So for us, we're an East Coast company, and we have to account for gamers waking up on the West Coast. So really not tweeting anything before 11 a.m. is a big no-no for us. It will not get engagement. Gamers will not be awake to interact with that. And so we see we see a couple hot spots during the day. One hot spot is around 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock. Is where we have almost all of our tournament announcements. So if we announce a big, massive tournament, you'll see that almost always come in the 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock realm. And then if we have other bigger news, usually, we can post around 6 or 7 o'clock. And so we typically don't like to go too late, or else East Coast, it's bedtime for East Coast. We don't want to go too late. So I'd say 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then 6 and 7 are two really good times for the gaming industry specifically. And then how often is too often? We have not seen our wrists get slapped by the Twitter algorithm for posting too often. We post quite a bit, and we have not seen any significant change there. So there's nothing crazy to report on the too often side. But I would say still be active and try to post like 3 to 5 times a day if you're a brand account, and a personal account. If you're trying to grow it, at least twice. But we don't see a big dip in too often.
Well, that's good to know. And then I think we'll wrap it up with one more question, which is, how would you position yourself to break into esports marketing space if you don't really have specific marketing experience?
Definitely. I think this is a really good question because the answer used to be, and this is not the tip that I give anymore, but it used to be, right, like pro bono work and just trying to get your foot in the door. But now there's, plenty of paid opportunity. And I even think starting with, like for us, it would be writing articles, or would be tournament administration. So we pay $20 an hour for like a moderator to help us with our events, or article writing on esports GG. And so even if you don't have true marketing experience, those are all jobs that would fit under my marketing umbrella. And so I would even say tournament operations is a great one. Writing articles, or even trying to freelance as well, right? You could freelance your social media expertise, and break in that way, and say like, hey, if you ever need somebody to freelance, I'm here for you on any time of day. And even for us, like we freelance people across the world. There will be um, uh, posts having to go out in different times. Like even for example, we had a Brazilian section for esports GG, and needed some Brazilian social media. So we had another handle just for esports Brazil, and sort of freelanced that portion out. So I'd say freelancing is a really great way to start and dip your toes into everything, even if it's not directly with a full-time job, just to see right if you like it.
Thank you. That's great, and such good advice. And it's wonderful that advice has shifted, because I'm certainly, I know that we at the Gamehers and just in the industry as a whole has really kind of moved that needle. Everybody deserves to be paid for their work. Well, Halina, thank you so much. This has been awesome. You have given a lot of incredibly valuable information in a quick 25-minute talk. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And I think I see Verda here. If anybody has any follow-up questions, we are, first of all, where can they find you, Halina? I guess you gave your handle, Halina, right? Is that it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's at Halina on Twitter. I'll type it into the chat here, or Halina Malik on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Would love to talk to anybody who's interested in gaming and esports, and love what the Gamers does. So thank you so much for even including me. I love your mission, and thank you so much for having me at the boot camp.
Thank you. Honored to have you, as always, and have a wonderful rest of the weekend.
Thanks, everybody.